Is making experimental films like a colonoscopy? Like no one wants it, but sometimes you have to do that. And during the examination, it turns out that you have like some kind of excitement of that. Diavolo Toscano. Diabolic questions beyond borders. Welcome to the second season of this show. I'm glad that you are still here. So now I know that I need to be prepared for the interview. It's much more better. So today I prepare something very, very special. With me, there are three musketeers, collective from UK, one of the famous filmmaker and artist collective, Matthew, Jack, and David. Why you are here? Is there some specific reason of that?
Well, we got invited to the residency to work within this landscape. It looked really interesting, and it's quite different from what we've worked with before. So we decided, yeah, absolutely, we want to be here to do this.
The process of making the films has been like a journey of finding out this body of work that we don't really understand until we've done it. So the landscape is important, kind of energy is important, and that's what makes something.
So you describe it like, if you don't know what you are going to do, we like to call it experimental art.
That's right.
Yes. Okay. Could you help our audience to understand what is that work like? Why you are doing that? What's the reason of that?
I think all art's experimental, personally, and there's always new things coming out of it. So it's just another avenue for expression. So we all have our own practices, but we made films previously together based on some of the performance events that have happened over the last 15, 16 years. And it's just another sort of expression of what we're interested in exploring. So the goal's not to be necessarily experimental, it's just an interest and kind of excitement around things and looking at different ways to engage with that excitement and that interest, hopefully in ways that interest people, and produce things that we find sort of have layers which emerge afterwards, so that we can continuously work together and make new things from that. So that's where the interest.
Aren't you too old for that? Like, it sounds like things for students, you know?
I don't know. I think you should never lose your curiosity.
You can't stop. If you're not experimenting as an artist, you're not really an artist.
Okay.
You can reiterate something you found, something you know. You might modify something through a gallery. As a pure artist, I think it's important to experiment. You have to be risking, and you have to challenge your understanding of what you're doing.
Do you feel like a pure artist?
No, it's a big word, but I think it's more a matter of being interested in the intuitive that happens when you're in the zone, in the energy of making something. Whether it's sculpture, whether it's performance, installation, this is something that we're all experimenting in, and it's like we work together because we like each other, and we also have something that clicks and works.
There are three of you guys, so you could say that you are some form of English triangle. Please imagine that you would have a sandwich in which two of you are slices of bread and one of you is the filling. Could be the filling, could be the sandwich.
Well, I think the sandwich gets more complex because it's not always three of us. There's often lots of different people from lots of different places.
Yeah.
There's only three of us here at the moment because the residency had 3 places. Sorry. But it's a more interesting sandwich now, right?
I don't think it has that sense of kind of hierarchy.
What's that sandwich with like bread in the middle as well? Club sandwich.
Club sandwich?
Yeah, like a big changing like club sandwich.
Like a sandwich, like bread and bread.
Yeah? We move through different roles within the process of doing it. So it's kind of like there's no sort of fixedness to what each of us do, working with other people continuously who also work the same way. So it's it'll be probably more than a sandwich, or maybe the best sandwich you'd ever eat it.
Maybe
the worst.
Is making experimental films like a colonoscopy? Like no one wants it, but sometimes you have to do that. And during the examination, it turns out that you have like some kind of excitement of that.
I'd rather answer the previous question, to be honest.
I think if you were someone who really enjoyed colonoscopies, that would probably be close to the mark, because it's not a painful procedure for us.
produces a lot,
filmmaking, not the colonoscopy.
yeah,
But
and it produces a lot of wind.
Okay, but maybe it's something like a colonoscopy for the people who are watching the experimental movie because it's hurting. And
wait, well, you can tell us after you watch it. If you
Have you seen it? Have you seen it?
no.
Well, how can you say
that's
that?
something to look forward to.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay,
Maybe there'll be a sense of relief when it's over.
Yeah.
for sure. But maybe you like it and you want to come back.
think you will
are
like it.
addicted of that.
I think you'll like it.
Yeah.
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 In part 2, he'll tell you whether it was like a colonoscopy or not.
Yeah. Then I can share my personal feelings about after colonoscopy and after watching.
Have you had a colonoscopy?
Not yet.
Then
but
you
I'm
have to
excited.
have one before you compare our films
Please
to it.
remember, I can make a movie about that kind of procedure, and then I will send it,
Yep.
and you can see the expression of my face.
You heard it here first, guys.
And then we will love that so much that you'll be part of the sandwich.
That's gonna be great. Hey guys, I had my colonoscopy, and now I want to join you. Okay, let's talk about being an artist in abroad. You get awards at foreign festivals. Do you think that's easier because no one understands the language that you're working on?
Not at all.
Our
No.
films are silent.
Our films are quite silent, and I feel that I guess in a way we use performances, these kind of body movements, or these very simple gestures with a landscape that are its own kind of language. So I feel they kind of go beyond like having to be within a set language, and especially when they're in a place like this.
It helps also to sort of like work in an environment where it's not the sort of same language that we're used to working with, because it does open up different possibilities of communication and different potentials for exciting images to form in your mind when you're meeting sort of midway on things.
It also separates you from the everyday. And so if it's like the everyday situation in Britain, for instance, it's kind of too close to the familiar in the sense of the kind of the sort of run of the day. So when you're abroad in another country like in Norway or in Italy, you have this situation where you're kind of isolated. There's a sort of sense of alien, and there's also a sense of intrigue and freshness in the looking. Everything is wonderful in a different way.
You're from England, yes?
Yes.
So England is an island. For good, you are away from the European Union. So are you feeling isolated, like rejected and isolated?
Not at all. Not rejected. We're all probably disappointed. I mean, politically disappointed in the situation. But you know what? It's life. You get on with it.
Yeah, but I'm talking about much more about the experience of being the part of the island life, because if you are living on the continent, you are like connected with other countries.
Within the collective, there are people from all nationalities, and so it's nothing to do with the isolation of the maritime English.
Okay, we understand. So what was the strange things of, if you can compare living in England, for example, living in Italy, in place like here, Montegiovi?
The three of us, we're all from London, which is a completely different sort of thing. So the pace change, the difference in kind of landscape, like being able to see further than just the building in front of you, those things play into the experience of this place. But it's also conversations with people. People have a different sort of mindset sometimes, and that's nice to engage with. Being here has been wonderful, and it's been really kind of like inspiring to be in this place for those reasons and many more reasons, which I probably don't even know how to describe yet. But that's why it sort of drives the project forward, drives my own practice forward, drives everything forward, and the imagination can only expand if you're exposed to different places.
But you spend a lot of time in Italy, like you told me.
Over my life, I've spent quite a bit of time in Italy, but traveling.
Italy. Have you ever been in Spain, for example?
I've been to Spain, Italy, France, Portugal.
No, Italy is the best.
I would say I love Italy, and it's very, very different in the same way that everywhere is very different. So I have a passion for Italy.
What is the special? Why Italy is so special?
It's more, I don't know, maybe it's just my roots, It's like kind of my original sort of paternal background comes from Puglia, and I didn't know that because I was adopted in England. So I feel very much like a kind of, international Heinz 57.
Do you think that being an artist undermines the classic concept of masculinity?
I would hope it does.
Okay, why?
Classic is always something that's sort of like fixed, right? And the concept of masculinity has been changing for years and years and years anyway. And it's not just a concept. It's many different concepts across many different places, many different people, many different facets. And yeah, so I would hope that it kind of like at least questions things, because it would be weird to sort of like look back on something kind of classical and just celebrate that for something which was unchanging. Classical masculinity, from the way I see it, lots of people see it differently, but yeah, it's a different world. It's changing all the time, and it's got loads of different elements to it.
It's a hard part to what you choose, that be an artist, like always. I think it's hard. Maybe in your country it's not that hard, but you need to fight with so many obstacles, right? Like, you know.
Oh, it's really hard. It's
hard.
It's impossible, I think.
Why? What? Because people don't understand what they are doing, or it's just hard to make money on that. What's the part?
Making money is
Making money on that is quite hard.
Okay.
And therefore, you're investing in something that is your passion and your poetry and your language and your way of engaging and finding your identity and your belonging, engaging with other people's identities and belonging. And I think that's something that has a sort of sense of the ephemeral, but it also has the sense of doubt. And I think those things are difficult to struggle with. We all have professions and incomes from other ways of working, and we've deliberately, I think, as a set of people, decided not to commodify the product. So it's not about that. It's about finding out what the product might be, and the product is about our kind of oasis. It's like about construction of something, and that I think has a good value. It's a more interesting value. It's like food. You can have expensive food, or you can have delicious food. You can have cheap food, a delicious food. But if you like food, it doesn't matter if it's expensive or cheap.
But it's much more like a side job for you. Like being an artist is a side job.
Not at all. Time to.
I don't think it's a job.
What it is?
I don't know, a passion you could call it, but I think that doesn't really sort of like sum it up. It's just something to be done, say human, like it's not there as a sort of process for making money and sort of churning out something which is already recognized. It's being alive and questioning things through various ways.
But when you feel that, did you have that feeling that, okay, I need to understand the world, and only one language what I can, like when I can use to describe the world is, for example, movies or film. That was something what you felt, or it was just like searching of the language and movie was the best for you?
Movie is the way of working. It's something that we've sort of found actually is interesting with the frustration of performance, because performance is ephemeral. And it was a different way of seeing something. So saying that rather than the audience being stuck within an ephemeral moment, there is this thing that can be revisited. And I think that's actually brilliant. It's really exciting. And it's more about iteration than reiteration.
We don't solely work in film, so there's been performances in the past. As I said, we all have our own practices which involve various things like sculpture, film, performance, all the different parts. It's about sort of finding something at the center of all of those things that sort of like make sense, if you know what I mean.
Is it hard to work with a collective? Like, because being an artist is much, like, for me, it's much more like individual thing.
I think it's a different mindset. I think the thing is that as a sort of solo artist or doing something yourself, we've all been doing it for a while, and we're all in a situation where basically one way of putting it is that what you make is precisely because of what you don't make. So as a collective, it pulls on a different issue because your thinking becomes fragmented, and I think that's exciting, and it's exciting because it's difficult.
The word collective is as we just, there's like a collective expression. So we're all working together. It's not a carefree attitude at all. It's very considered, but we all have a very similar kind of outlook when we get into this kind of mode of working together, and we all are able to help one another and criticize and critique one another
and fire off each other.
And fire off each other.
Firing ideas.
It's not. It's like, one of us will have an idea, and then that idea will then grow into something else over like a day, and then we'll try that idea. Things are throwaway sometimes with the works that we make. Working in this medium, it actually gives us an opportunity to, when we do performance work or when we make sculpture work or whatever it is, like, I guess particularly in those latter kind of mediums, like, you get to stand back and look at something. Whereas with this, we're able to kind of collect and then edit into something, and be able to look back at what we've done, and then try and make sense of it, and then maybe it will lead on to something else.
I guess a lot of them are extensions of conversations as well.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Everything's pretty much an extension of a conversation somehow. So that's part of the process. That's what makes it all interesting. So that's the kind of collective. We all work collectively in that way.
War is burning, like it's on the fire. Like you can see a lot of problems, like you just mentioned the war in Ukraine or stuff like that, global warming and stuff. Do you think there is still a lot of place for art, or people just need to focus on the like serious problems?
I think there's more place for art.
Okay,
I think there's more place for art in the sense that art has to have something to push against, and it has to have something to react to. And I think that in throughout the tradition of art, I'm not talking about the beautification or the kind of masturbation of like people's egos and having something, to buy and to put on your wall and say, look, I've got this. It's not about that. I think, for me, it seems to be ultimately a vehicle in which you can actually talk about the world somehow.
I'd agree with that, and add that, like, it depends how you view art, really, but like now it's more important than ever to understand what being human is, because if everything's sort of burning around us, the world's changing so much very quickly. Like, what is it to be human in a changing world? And probably art is another language for addressing that and putting it out there and just seeing what it looks like. So that's one of the many tools we have at our disposal for understanding how we think, how we feel, what we are, and gives us another way of dealing with change.
A lot of people think that that kind of art, like if it's not a movie in the cinema, like simple art, it's exclusive. That I need to learn how. Like I don't have the tools to understand your art. I feel stupid when I'm watching something like that, and I say, okay, that's not for me. How to change that approach? Like, is it possible? Like, what you can say to the people who are afraid of being a part of that kind of like art, who just demand something from you, like to just stop and be patient?
It doesn't have to be called art, and maybe it's the word art that makes people feel uncomfortable. I feel uncomfortable sometimes going to private views, and it is a very sort of strange world where it's like it can be really exclusive, but it's just language in the end. It's another form of language. It doesn't have to be art. Like, part of the reason that it's interesting to make films is because they travel to different places than galleries. They can go to film festivals. They can be projected on that wall over there. People can come along and look at them, and hopefully that's not a sort of experience that people will be like, oh, I don't understand that, because there's nothing in the stuff we've done. I hope I speak for all of us, and I'm pretty sure I do, that's exclusive at all. It is simply an invitation to have a look at some things with us and get your own stuff from it and enjoy it. So it's like that's.
And and I think also there's an element of humour. I mean, I, for instance, find it very difficult to say I'm an artist. I feel it much easier to say that I'm really interested in making something that I'm really interested in. And I like to laugh at it, and I like to cry with it. And I think that's something that I think we're all capable of being involved with without any education at all. In the sense that, you might enjoy watching a sort of a movie, a narrative, a story, because it's food for the eyes. You don't need to sit and read a book and sort of like rely on your sort of soul imagination. Whereas I think with our approach, I see it more to do with this thing of we're not interested in making a narrative, because I think we all make narratives in our head within our incidental lives, and we're all loaded with all the problems in the world and all the beauty. So it's something that, you have to laugh, you have to cry, you have to be disinterested, and you have to be beguiled. I'm not saying the audience has to be, I'm saying I have to be, So I think that's all I can be, is like my own audience, because that's what I feel is interesting in the world. And it's nothing to do with academia, but the tradition's a bit like poetry is a difficult thing, and if you're not interested in it, you can not look at it or read it. But I think it's more important and more relevant to suggest you take a moment. And that's it. It's not thrust down anyone's throat.
Picture that your daughter or son will come in the future to you and say, "Hey, Dad, I want to be an artist." What would be your first advice for him or for her?
Go for it. Yeah, why not?
What would be like okay, but be careful about that, or be like, if I would knew that, that's gonna be like much more better for me or easier for me. Is there something like that?
Easier and better, they're two different things. Easier, but also easier in terms of being alive and dealing with all of the sort of complications that involves, or easier in terms of having a bit of money and being able to sort of make the space that money gives you. There's so many like complexities to that question.
Okay, so what would be the first question that you are going to ask him or her?
We wouldn't ask, to be honest. Like, people find their own paths, really. Like, I think if you're asking that question at that age, then discover it.
That's gonna be OnlyFans, Dad. That's gonna be OnlyFans art.
Well, I have children, and they both make their own world. You know, they do their own thing. You know, the sort of is a biologist and wrote an imaginary novel at the age of 17. Is a fantastic singer. The other one is a dancer and is a carpenter and is making performance work and working in galleries and also making frames and plinths for galleries. You know, she's interested in laugh, you know, and fun. And they're both into music, they're both into things, and that's all I could give them, is give them a piano, enjoy life. And they actually love what we do, and that's honest. You know, it's not something that's come from their thinking they must like it because it's Dad's work, you know. It's like they love it, you know, and I think that's a genuine success, I think, for me. For the child, to me, because I think also what we do is actually, I think, embrace something that we all are, which is we're children and adults. So a lot of it is playful. A lot of it is actually just being genuinely naive in the moment and serious in the moment and stupid in the moment. And all of that is valuable.
I think that, you know, we cannot to see anything on that camera.
It's got a bit dark.
I'm pretty sure, but on the end, I want to ask you like final questions, because you are here on the La Value residence. It's a special thing, special place, especially for the people from here. And I don't want to ask you how fabulous and great is on the La Value residence, because you know that already. But I think it's a special experience for the people from here, like young people from here also, who are not, like, maybe they are shy, but they are okay. The guys from UK just came. Now we are in Montegiovi, so it's a small restaurant in a small village, 200 people. I hope they will come here and see your movie, see that that's a possibility to live the life like that. What do you want to say to people who just live in a small city here and they don't have that many opportunities to, you know, go away and, you know, get away from here and find like the easy option, like maybe in London there are so many opportunities to do that. You're here, you're in the middle of nowhere. How to find your way?
I guess the first thing is like curiosity and wanting to find out what you're doing. And the world's smaller than it was before. There are so many communication channels between all sorts of things. It shouldn't be daunting to approach those things and just put something that you're interested in onto them. I know sometimes that can be problematic, but just be curious and explore it and have the conversations and then let it build from there is what I would say.
Yeah, I'd add to that, and I'd say you follow your nose. You know, you have to be curious, and just be curious and look around the corner, look out of the side of your eye. Don't always see things like how you think everyone else should see things. Just look at slightly. That would be my advice to anyone. Follow your nose.
And it's not always going on in another place. Like you mentioned, London, we're here. There are things where you are, there are things outside of where you are. Sometimes you've got to explore all of them to sort of understand and find out what you're interested in.
It was so long ago that I've forgotten the question, but I haven't forgotten the question. It's okay. But I think just as a sort of word to the people of Montegiovi, you know, they have been intrigued by these three guys that have come from London, and you know, they've all been very welcoming. They've always been very lovely, and there's a lovely group that are very intrigued, and they always watch us fly by. So in that respect, there is other stuff going on, and we are here, and other people will come and make use of this land and this situation. And so to the people of Montegiovi, like, thank you from us, but also carry on being as lovely and intrigued as you already are, and also as kind.
And if you ever want to get in touch or ask any questions or anything, feel free to reach out. Like, emails is on the website, all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's not another world. It's like,
we want to share things, share it around. And I think, there's a lot of stress. You see a lot of houses that are sort of up for sale, and the story in the whole world is that, it's difficult for young people to be in here, and they're in the small place. They want to move to the city. They want to find some way of making money, but also there's a good idea, which is to make some adventures. And I think that, I'll say with equal David to say thank you. It's been a fabulous adventure for us.
Also, we're gonna try and learn much more Italian next time. So
That's
conversations.
And I'll try speaking more often as well.
Thank you. So if you have any questions for the guys, for me, about my colonoscopy, just ask. Not a problem at all. So thank you guys that you are here, and now we are going to meet you because they're gonna be like show. So thank you guys for watching. See you in the next episode. Diavolo Tuscana. Ciao.